says as follows: Balkeri, right? Someone who saw Keri, which just means, right, which would be perfectly normal for somebody that's married, and there was Mekayim Mrs. Oina, Mahara Beliboy Ve'eno Mevorech. So because he is Keri, and we'll see in the reason that we learn out that Torah has to be Beresis of Isaiah, and Keri has a certain aspect of Kalas Roish to it. So therefore, he's forbidden to say Kriya Shema. So the only solution is Mahar Beliboy Ve'ena Mevarech. You know, the Kriya Shema itself. So Ve'ena Mevarech Lo Fnev Lechra. And as Kriya Shema says Beliboy, and we'll see why in a minute. But he does not make the Birkas Kriya Shema. That's also included in what's forbidden because of Keri is Torah or making brachos. So therefore, that's as far as Birkas Kriya Shema. Now when it comes to Birkas Hamazon, we'll see why. We'll see because it's midaraisa. Mevorach la'achrov. You do make Birkas Hamazon. You do bench. But brachos beforehand are only Darabanan. We'll see. He doesn't make those. Rabbi Yehuda says he does. Well, we'll see in the Gemara if Rabbi Yehuda means Mehir or actually Dibur. Could mean also Mehir. Zaktim Amar Avina. It's just a meres. Here Kedibur Dami. Why is the Mishnah saying, Tana saying that you do Armahara? If the Mishnah is saying Mahara, we have a big machlekes, and we'll see them in that when the Torah requires to say Kriya Shema or any other form of tefillah, so is thinking the words the equivalent of actually saying the words, or maybe not? Maybe only when you say the words. So that's the shaila. Here, so Ravina points out that if the Mishnah says that what he can do is be mahar or kriya shema, it would seem to be here kedibur. Otherwise, what's the point? Now the Gemara says 1 second. Well, let's look at the other way. Here kedibur. So if here is kedibur, so then yaitzi b'sul hasav. So then, what do you gain by only doing hearer? So if you're not allowed to, if anyway is going to be mahara, so that is the equivalent of speech. So then, just say the words. What do you get? Mamavshach is a hearer. So then, you have a problem. If it's not hearer, what are you doing? So the Gemara answers the question. Kedash kacham b'sinai. We'll see that. Rashi brings, we'll see coming up in the sugya, the reason why a Bakeri is not allowed to say Kriya Shema or any Torah, we'll see which Torah exactly, but because we learn in our Sinai that just like in our Sinai, the Torah tells us that the Jewish people had to go make sure they were removed Tumas Keri from themselves. They went to the mikveh before Kabbalah Torah. So too, we learn out that by any Torah or any Kriya Shema or Bracha, you have to do this thing. But that's only when it was Dibur. That's called Dibur. We can say, Har Sinai is considered an act of Dibur, where Kodesh Baruch Hu, maybe because Kodesh Baruch Hu is speaking, or it's a little bit of a question why that's Dibur, but that is considered Dibur, and therefore only there do you have to be teufel. Rabbi, so we're up to Uchizda, first wide line on the bottom of Chafim Beis. Rav Chisda Amar here Lav Kedibur Damar. Now here Rav Chisda argues it's not. These thought like here Damar. If he goes with that argument, he doesn't. he says, l'chayra, if it is dibur, then you're back to the same problem. It must be it's not dibur. So elamai here lavka dibur dami. So lama mahara. So now we have the question. Okay, really Kriya Shema needs to be spoken, but a bakeri can't. So he's mahara. So the question is, so why? What are you doing? It's not dibur, so you didn't fulfill your obligation of Kriya Shema. The answer is, you're right. Is it really Kriya Shema? No. But it's still inappropriate that everyone's saying Kriya Shema. He's about Keri, so he just doesn't do anything. What do you mean? It's Kabbalah Salach Shemayim. Say Kriya Shema. No. Effective Gemara. Okay, he shouldn't do. He's Yeshiv Batal. That's the problem. Well, so give him something else to do. Give him something else constructive to do. Let him say a kapitel Tilim. Okay, good point, but preferably say Kriya Shema. That's what everybody else is doing. Do it also. Okay, we're up to Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph on the top. Now, let's now analyze this. So if that's how you're learning Pshat, Rav Chisda, that's how he's going to learn. It says in the Mishnah that a Bakeri is Mahara B'Kriya Shema because we want him to be Oisek in something, and he should be Sit Batal. What else is Kriya Shema? Let's learn this Mishnah Tefillah. Don't stop if you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei and you become aware that you're Bakeri. Ella, you Chatzer. You shorten your Shemona Esrei. Switch over to a shorter version of Shemona Esrei, so the Gemara. That implies that if you start Shemona Esrei, don't stop. But certainly, if you didn't begin Shemona Esrei, lo yatchil. So why is that? So why don't we tell him be mahara Shemona Esrei, even if you're bakeri? So when I answer Shani Tefillah, the less b'malchus Shemayim. There's no malchus Shemayim because Hamazon the lachav the less b'malchus Shemayim. It's not Kriya Shema is kabbalah malchus Shemayim. Tefillah is not. Well, what about Birkas Hamazon? Why are you saying Birkas Hamazon in the Mishnah when you're a bakeri? Utanan al Hamazon v'varach la'achrav, v'varach l'fanav. El Kriya Shema v'varach la'achrav v'varach l'fanav. The answer is El Kriya Shema Birkas Hamazon. Deraisa. Since Kriya Shema and Birkas Hamazon is mideraisa, that's why when something is deraisa, you have to also be mahara. You can't not be mahara. Or makbid to mahara. Tefillah, which is the Rabbanan, so that we say you need not be mahara. Okay, so that's the rules of the Mishnah of when you're mahara and when you're not. Okay, now we're going to discuss the Raisa about Amr Rav Yehuda. Amr Rav Yehuda Rav. Minayin the Birkas Hamazon lachreha. How do I actually know that? Who said? Where does it say this in the Torah? The Birkas Hamazon. So it says v'chalta v'safata v'rachta. Oh, very good. First passage in the Torah, you have to bench. You ate, you're satisfied. You should bench. You should bless Hashem. Minayin the Birkas Torah lefanem. How do you know the Birkas HaTorah, the Fanem and the Torah? Right? Let's remember, the other bracha which is deraisa is Birkas HaTorah. So how do we know that that's the Fanem? Shenemar Kishem Hashem Ekra. We say Moshe Binyomin says, I will call out Havu Gadol Elokeinu. So and then he goes to teach to teach Torah. So before he goes to teach Torah, I will call out, I'll make a bracha. Rashi says, he says, Ani varech tchila. And you'll answer me. I'm going to say, I'm going to call out Hashem, Ekra. And then you should answer me, you say, Amen. So you see that before Torah, you're required to be Bevarach as Hashem. So that's why we're Birkas Torah. It's a din deraisa. Omram Yechin Lamanu Birkas Torah Lachra. Now, how do we know that you make Birkas Torah Lachreha? Right? We don't actually do that, but we learn that from. Rabbi Yechon says we should learn that from Birkas Hamazon. Birkas Hamazon and similarly, Birkas Hamazon lifnei the bracha rishayna. We could also learn that. I mean, Birkas Torah mikavul chaymer. And the Gemara explains. Birkas Hamazon mikavul chaymer. Ma Hamazon shein Torah lifnei. The Torah speaks about explicitly that food, after eating a meal, you have to make a bracha. And yet it doesn't say anything in the Torah, at least, that you have to make a bracha rishayna. Torah, shetul l'faneh. But in Torah, we do say, kishem Hashem ekra, right? You do have to make a bracha l'faneh. So we can learn out. So certainly Torah also requires lachreha. And similarly, we can make another kavuchayim because of mazon b'faneh. Because of makom chachamim, not Torah shein tunin lachreha. There's no Torah doesn't speak out of bracha achoreina for Torah, but tunin l'faneh that it does. Mazon shu tunin la'achrav. So mazon requires because of and it didn't shetunin l'faneh. That would be theoretically the kavuchayim. Equal mifrak, but the Gemara says no. Malamazon and shekain. Each one has a pircha on it. You can't. It's not a correct kavachaymer. Malamazon shekain nene umalatayra shekain chaye oilam. Mazon is nene. So it's not a raya just because you make a bracha by mazon to Torah. Malatayra. Can't bring a right Torah. Yeah, of course you make a bracha for it. It's chaya oilam. Torah is life. Because a Muslim is only on. It's not chaya oilam. It's chaya oilam. It's not chaya oilam. For oil, t'nan ala mozayin nevorach la'achra v'nevorach lefonav. Also, I'll prove it to you based on our assumption, understanding the Mishnah Bakari, that you see the dafka by Mazayin la'achrav, but there's no din. It's why? Because that's the Raisa we said before. But beforehand, it's not the Raisa. That's why you don't need to make a bracha. If you're about Keri, can't make a bracha. So Tufta, that disproves this, at least the Kavachaymer part of the din that we learned out over here. Zokti Gavaitor Amar Rav Yehuda. Safik Kara Kriyashma. Safik Kara. Person's not sure, I came to Shalom davening, and I realized, everyone said Kriya Shema, I'm kind of saying, but I'm not sure if I said. Maybe I missed a part of it, or I fell asleep or something. I was really tired. It's a suffix. So what's it in? So interesting enough, it says We'll see why in a minute. You do not need to repeat. Okay, suffix. Safik Amar Emes V'Yatziv. What about Birkas Kriyashma? Emes the bracha Emes V'Yatziv. Lo Amar Safik Lo Amar Choyzer V'Omer Emes V'Yatziv. That you do have to repeat. So that's very strange. Kriyashma you don't. The bracha you do. According to the Shita, we'll see. There's Cholik. But my timer Kriyashma is the Rabbanan. Says you know what? Kriyashma is the Rabbanan. It's very interesting. We have to see why. I thought Kriya Shema would have been Deraisa from Dav Beis. Sounded like it was Deraisa. But we'll see. Maybe he disagrees. So Kriya Shema is Rabbanan and Emes V'Yatziv is Deraisa. So if the Gemara says, what are you talking about? Moshe of Yosef. Shach B'chav Kubecha. Did we learn Shach B'chav Kubecha? There's a mitzvah that say Torah B'Shach Kubecha. Say Kriya Shema when you go to sleep and get up twice a day. I'm like, no. The pasuk doesn't say Kriya Shema. It's talking about Tivei Torah, or Dvorim Ha'elu, or it's talking about V'shinantam Levanecha. Shinantam, you should teach Torah. That's with Tivei Torah. The Kriya Shema, maybe the Chazal instituted it, but it's not. No, it's not in the Torah. It's not. What's that? We're going to still analyze this. Another step. So let's now analyze your second statement. So then why does the Mishnah say that you don't make the bracha l'achreya? Livrach l'achreya. My time of varech. No. So one answer. My time. Why would you make the bracha? The reason why it's daraisa is not because the bracha is in the Torah, but because the Torah says you have to mention and remember Yetzias Mitzrayim every day. So that's why. So now, but if you said Kriya Shema already, and you said the third parsha of Kriya Shema, that's already, you already mentioned Yetzias Mitzrayim. So it's not daraisa anymore. Ha'it kalei b'Kriya Shema. So v'nei maha v'lo b'ayha. So then why? So then just say, well, why say Kriya Shema? What would say Emes V'Yatziv then? So Gemara says Kriya Shema Adifa. Dispetarti. No. In other words, if I have a choice in the Bakari has a choice what to choose over here, he's figuring out what should I do. And one of the two, then say Kriya Shema, because Kriya Shema has also Kabbalas Amud HaYomi. It's two things. It also has Yetzias Mitzrayim. Right? As opposed to when you're suffix, okay, so we have to analyze what your suffix is on each thing. Okay, that's one opinion. Second, Rabbi Elazar says no. Rabbi Elazar disagrees, and this is the halacha. Suffix kar Kriya Shema, suffix kar choiz v'kar. Yes, of course. You miss Kriya Shema. You better say it again. Kriya Shema is a suffix deraisa. Suffix. Hispalo. So hispalo. Now he's going to talk about as opposed to tefillah, whether you're not sure whether you daven, can't remember, forgot whether you daven, maybe forgot if you said something in davening or something like that also. So ein choyzim hispalo. Now Rabbi Yechanan, why? Because tefillah is the rabbanan. So the rabbanan kula. And Rabbi Yechanan says it's true that it's the rabbanan. It's true, I agree. But there's another important rule in tefillah. Don't forget. In my opinion, a person can always choose to say another Shemona Esrei. You can always halavai. Tefillah is a privilege which anytime you can do it, try to do it. So there's no reason not to daven again. It's true. Kriya Shema Safik, you need to say it again because of the Raisa. But the Chumrah. But and Tefillah is because halavai Adam Shispal. A little more. A person is oimed b'tefillah. V'niska shispala. Now let's say I'm davening, and I do remember, what do you mean? I already davened Shachris. I was at the last minyan. I'm doing it again. I don't know how we got it in the second minyan, but yeah. He remembered he davened whatever the story was. Right? So what do you do? Poisek, no, you cannot say Shemona Esrei twice. Once you fulfilled your chiyuv, you fulfilled your chiyuv. So everything you're saying is a bracha of Atala. Stop. In fact, the Gemara, is that true? They asked this following question: Hani b'nei beirav to tell you, umitri the chol b'Shabbos. What happens if you're on Shabbos and you start instead of right? So Gidashta, whatever the regular the Shemona of Shabbos, start to das. Start saying Chol. What do you do? So the halacha is, well, actually we'll see. It's not it's not such a big deal. We'll see what do you do. And it's not good. You've not forgot Shabbos, but we'll see. Mao Shigru Amalei Goyrin Koysa Bracha. You finish it. So say, what do you mean? Hey, So what do you, how can you do that? You're not obligated. It's a bracha of Atala. So she says, no, it's not a fakir. That's not true. You are essentially obligated in tefillah, and tefillah essentially means saying all birchas, all the yudches brachos of Shemona Esrei. Right. So why don't you say it every Shabbos? You really should. There happens to be Chazal came along and they changed it. For Rabbanan Delo Atchechu, Mishim Kavod Shabbos. Rabbanan said, don't do it because it's too much tirch on Shabbos. But Ein Chanami, Ava Hacha, But that's by saying Tfilas Chol on Shabbos. So once you start the bracha, there's no problem continuing it. It's part of Shemona Esrei. It doesn't bother me. But if you already daven Shemona Esrei doing Chol, you already fulfilled your obligation. That's a different story. That's Hatzalile. You already daven. So we say, what are you doing? Okay, yeah, we have another minute. So let's actually finish the Amud. Amud HaYomi Shmuel Ispalav v'nichnas leBeis HaKnesses. So what's the tzibur Ispalim? You came late. I'm sorry. What happened is you came to shul. You davened already. I wasn't sure if I'm going to make it to shul. Who knows? It's it's very dangerous outside. I won't be able to go. So you daven. And now in Baruch Hashem, I made it to shul, and everyone's about to daven. What do? I want the daven with tzibur. It's an opportunity to daven with a minyan. Should I daven again? So one says, yeah, no problem. But it depends. This is essentially what's called in halacha a tefillas nedava, and it works as follows: Im yachol lechadish b'davar. In other words, you can't just daven again, right? Because that's just repeating what you said before. Yeah, you did the chiyuv already. But if I can be mechadish b'davar, which means to say I have other things I need to ask for. I have other things which are be'etzem shayach to tefillah. That's my tefillah. I want to be mechadish. I have to ask for I have other needs. I have to ask Hashem for parnasa in this particular thing or atzlacha, and I forgot to do that. I didn't do that. And I can add that on. Yachsav yispalel. Then you can make it tefillas to dava. If not, al yachsav yispalel. Now the Gemara says we have to we need both halachas that we said here. Diyash b'nei kamaisa that. That you have to stop davening if you realize you davened already. Hanimili yachid v'yachid. So I would have thought that's by yourself. But the second statement it tells you in general in the Ispal of Inichas is don't daven again. In general, unless you can make it in dava, don't daven again. So isn't that obvious? We said if you're in the middle of davening, you have to stop. No, that's only when you're davening yachid. Or you already daven with tzibur and see with the tzibur. But in our case here, in the second case, on top of base, in the second case, of a yachid, the gabi tzibur, but since I daven bichidus, and now I'm coming to daven with the tzibur, that's kiman to lutzali. That was a different tefillah. That wasn't with the tzibur. So I would have thought that you could daven. No, you can't daven because it's still called davening. Unless you can be mechadish b'dover, that's a different story. And if I would have said over here, you can't daven, even though it's with the tzibur. Okay, so obviously, if you daven already without a tzibur and you want to daven again, that's obviously for sure. So why would you have to make that first statement? No, but that's also there. We're saying once you started, do you have to stop in the middle? That's a different question. Maybe maybe once you already start in the middle, we would not tell you to stop. No, even though you already started, you're in the middle, but you shouldn't be davening. Stop right where you are and stop. Yeah, stop here.